Hello everyone, and welcome back to another Conversation to Remember. For those of you that are new, my name's Jordan, and I speak with 100-year-olds about their lives in order to preserve their stories and educate younger generations. Today's video is with Max. He's a Second World War veteran who served in Italy and other parts of Europe. Today's video focuses specifically on his life and training up to the start of the war, and also his training in the early years of the war up to and after being called up for war service. My next video with Max will be about his time in Italy, so stay tuned for that. But be sure to like and subscribe if you want to see more videos like this, and drop any questions in the comments down below, and I'll try and get back to as many of you as possible.
My name is Maxwell Dennis Embury, E-M-B-U-R-Y, and I was born in 1925. So I'm nearly 101 years old. If my body was as good as my mind, I'd be running around like a chicken.
Yeah.
Yeah. At the age of about 13, my friends at school started joining scouts and that sort of thing. And I was getting twitchy because I hadn't been anywhere or done anything. So I came home one day from school and I said, I'm going to join the scouts. And my grandmother, you're going in the army, Max. I said, no, grandmother, there's no army in this area. I haven't seen anybody in army uniform. No, she said, because they prayed at night, evening. But there is two territorial units in New Nabbit. One is the 4th Battalion, the Devonshire Regiment, which prays in Wilbur Street Drill Hall. And the other is 296 Royal Devon Yeomanry, which is artillery, 25-pounders. They prayed in the drill hall at the bottom of the avenue. And I know the commanding officers because they go to Methodist Church with me. So I'm going to have a word with them on Sunday and see what the rules and regulations are about joining. True to her word, she came home, she said, on the following Sunday, she said, I've met the two commanding officers. The yeomanry are a bit reluctant to take you because it's a lot of mechanical dealings and heavy equipment, but the infantry are perfectly prepared to take you. The Devonshire Regiment. She said, the commanding officer said that you can go and visit and see how you like it for 2 or 3 evenings, sit in and watch. So this is what I did.
Yeah.
She gave me 6 old pence. 2pence was the bus fare. 2pence was for tea and a cake, and 2pence more in case I had to spend a joining fee or watching fee or something. Okay. And on the next Tuesday was our first parade night. I went at the age of then 13 and 10 months, nearly 14.
Yeah.
And I went in to the drill hall. She gave me the full instructions. It was blackout. I didn't know where I was going. I'd never been to New Nabbit in the dark before. But I got out of the bus and she said, walk up the main street to the tower, the Wilbur Tower, which I did. And on the right, you'll see 2 big green doors. Open the door if they're not open and walk down the long corridor to the drill hall. So I was shaking like a leaf. I didn't know what to do. My heart was pounding like anything because I didn't know what to expect. And it was dark as pitch. I did have a light, little torch, but it didn't give much light. And halfway down the corridor, I could hear the left, right, left, right, left, right. A drill squad being drilled and a chink of light along the bottom of the door. So I made for the chink of light. I knocked on the door and a great big, hefty looking soldier appeared. What do you want, sonny? I said, I've come to join the army, sergeant. I'm not a sergeant, I'm a sergeant major. And he pointed to his crown on his arm and not his stripes. And you call me sergeant major. So I said, okay. Oh, you're too young. Go away and come back in 12 months' time. Our recruiting age is 15. So, but I said, my grandmother has spoken to the CO, and he said I can come and sit in and watch. Oh, well, if that's the case, we better go and talk to the CO. So he took me back up the corridor, upstairs to the CO's office. So he knocked on the door, and he said, I've got a young lad here whose grandmother you spoke to on Sunday about watching. Yes, he said, Sergeant Major, I've given him permission to come in once or twice on evening drills, Tuesday and Thursday, and sit and watch what you're doing. So this is what I did for quite a number of weeks, and I was getting more and more and more interested.
Yeah.
And I did this for about 6 months, and the commanding officer then said to me, are you still liking this, Max? I said, yes. He said, well, you're now 14 and a half, and he said, I can think about enrolling you, because the time I enroll you, you'll be best part of 15. So he gave me the enrollment papers, and I filled them all in, and I handed them back. And the next time I went in, he said, right, we have enrolled you, but we can't put you in uniform until you're 15. But you could prate us, and we will lend you some denim overalls as a uniform. So you will be very useful for acting as enemy on exercises or acting as a casualty on exercises. So for 6 months, you can have a watch-on situation, and when you're 15 or nearly 15, we'll make you a full-blown member. So that went on for a few weeks, and all of a sudden, the government reduced the age from joining from 15 to 14. So he said, well, you're well within the limit. Would you still want to be signed on? So I said, yes. So he signed me on, and he took me to the quartermaster's store, fitted me out with uniform and equipment, and put 2 stripes on my arm. He said, the sergeant major said, you've attended for over 12 months, watching, and I've been using you in the squad, putting you in the middle so you haven't been seen, and getting you to march properly and everything. And I've also given you other odd jobs to do. So I'm very pleased with your progress. You are fit to be an NCO. So that's why I've awarded you 2 stripes, and I've awarded you to instruct a section of 7 boys in small arms training every Tuesday and Thursday night. So I was enrolled as an corporal instructor.
And how did that feel?
Oh, I was like a kingpin.
Yeah.
I was like a kingpin.
Yeah. Yeah, it must have felt good.
I thoroughly enjoyed it. And then from there, I progressed to a sergeant, and from there to a sergeant instructor. And by that time, I was 16, and the Home Guard was formed.
Yeah.
And 16-year-old NCOs and over were enrolled into the Home Guard as messengers, cyclists, dispatch riders, and that sort of thing. And so I was also attached to the Home Guard, and I used to go out on night patrol with the official Home Guard on patches of moor like Dartmoor, Exmoor, Orley Common, and see that no German parachutists were being dropped, or there's no plane crashes or accidents. And we used to go to stations and guard the station, or crossroads, or places of military importance.
Yeah.
Bridges and things.
Yeah.
One patrol would be sent here, and another patrol would be sent there, and so on. That's how we did our evening training.
Okay.
And that was the use of the Home Guard. It was there as a protection in case the Germans tried an invasion.
Yeah, because they weren't far away at this point,
They
were
weren't. They were only 25 miles away.
Yeah.
And so that was continued until about 16 and a half. An Air Force officer came into the drill hall one evening and said he was desperately short of recruits for the Royal Observer Corps. The Germans were knocking out so many radar stations on the south coast, they wanted to form a Royal Observer Corps in the Torbay, Brixton, Paignton area. So they were going to build a protective hut for us on a reservoir at Torquay known as Great Hill Reservoir, and we were going to be called George 4. There was a similar situation happening on Bury Head, where the lighthouse was. They built a pit into the ground and made a little fortress place there, and that was George 3. They had a very good look over Lyme Bay, Torbay. George 2 was Holland Golf Course. So they built a pillbox on Holland Golf Course, and George 1 was up the coast, Sidmouth way somewhere.
Right. Yeah.
So that formed 4 stations. George 1, 2, 3, 4.
Okay.
And we worked as a circle, interlocking each other's signals, cross-purposing our aerial beams. That's what we did. And I did 24 hours a week.
Okay.
And they paid me as a leading aircraftman and put me into RAF uniform.
Yeah.
So I had 2 uniforms, a khaki for the Army and a blue for the RAF.
Which one did you prefer?
Well, I think I preferred the RAF one because the light blue was better looking than the khaki one. Khaki's a bit deadpan. I thoroughly enjoyed my life as an instructor in the TA, cadet. I was then a cadet force sergeant major instructor. I've been on lots of army courses. Warminster was one, Cheddar was another, Purbright was another. So I went on several shooting courses. So I was a trained coaching instructor on live shooting. They then said, right, you are officer material. So would you like to consider being commissioned in the Territorial Army? I said, yes. So they said, right, we'll make you an under officer. We'll appoint you to be an under officer. And I wore a blue peak in my cap and a blue band and blue and bars on my shoulder. And I was a cadet sergeant major in rank, but serving as an under officer, as a cadet under officer training. A few weeks later, I went for a medical exam interview in Exeter, and I was judged for so and so and so and so. They didn't tell me the results. And a week or 2 later, I had a letter to say that I would be called up for war service in April 43. And so I waited for April 43. I had a letter from the War Office and a cheque for 4 shillings or whatever it was. That was for a day's travel, a day's food, and a shilling for expenses. So a week or so before I was called up, I had this letter from the War Office to say, report to Combermere Barracks, Windsor, on the, I forget the actual date, but in April, I think it was. And mother and father took me to Newton Station. So they put me on the train, said goodbye, see you when we see you. Not a very nice time. I sat all the way to Reading. I got off at Reading, and I noticed that 1 or 2 other people who got on the West Country train had got the same sort of package as me in a little suitcase and a bundle under their arm, that sort of thing. So I stopped one of them. I said, are you doing anything? He said, yes, I'm making my way to Combermere Barracks. I said, shake hands. That's 2 of us. And a little bit further along, we caught up with somebody else with a suitcase. And by the time we got to Combermere Barracks, there was 5 of us, all from the West Country. 2 from Plymouth, 2 from Newton Abbot area, and 1 from Somerset. 5 men, all making their way to Combermere Barracks. So we got to Combermere Barracks, we reported into the barrack guard room, and they said, right, they put us in the hands of a corporal in the Household Cavalry. He had lifeguards written on his shoulder, and he was in smart brass button uniform, as it was in those days, before battle dress came out. And he said, my name is Bozeman. I'm a corporal of, I wear 2 stripes of the crown. And he said, I will be your corporal for the next 6 weeks or more while you're doing your basic training. And he was a little horror at first. He was put there purposely to break your heart, which he pretty well did with most people. But I was used to the training because I'd done a lot of it in the TA, so I knew what was coming next. So it didn't interfere with me at all. And I was a fully trained infantry sergeant major instructor in the Territorial Army. And I was being taught infantry training by a cavalry NCO who hadn't a bloody clue what he was doing, really. So he said, you better take over the instruction of the squad backs.
Yeah.
And as you'll see in my history book, he came on to me many, many times to demonstrate this, that, and the other. Instead of doing 10 weeks basic training, I only did a couple of weeks because I knew it all.
Yeah, you've done it all before.
I could strip a bang gun, I could strip a Tommy gun, I could strip a Sten gun, and put it all together again in blindfolded. Well, nobody could touch that.
No.
So I left all that training behind me because they then said I was too good for that. I knew it all. And they transferred me from the recruit squadron to the technical training squadron, which was across the barracks. So they put me on this, what they call specialist training, which is learning to drive an armoured car and a tank, learning to maintain it, learning to operate the water set and the procedure, and how to tactfully use it in the event of it going into war front. And the first thing I did was to report. I was told to report to the MTO, that's the motor training officer. So I reported to him, and he said, can you drive? I said, yes. He said, get in that 15-year truck, water truck, and drive it out the gate and around the streets of Windsor.
Yeah.
Oh, I'd never driven a truck before,
No.
certainly anything like that.
No.
So I got in, I drove out through the gates, and I drove around Windsor. Then he said to me, go and drive down the Great Walk to Windsor Castle from the top of the marker at the top. And then he told me to go 1 or 2 other specialist places, which were difficult driving. He knew what he was doing to make sure I was doing. Anyway, we drove back into the barracks about 20 minutes, half an hour later. And he said to me, that's brilliant. There is your pass. You've passed to drive in all classes. Tanks and armoured cars, soft vehicles like water trucks and food trucks and quartermaster's trucks, 1,500 weight and ton trucks. There is your pink card. You go out into Civvy Street. When your war is over, you produce that card. It'll show the transport officer that you have passed your test, driving tests. So that was that.
And were you, before that, were you driving cars? Did you have your normal driving license?
Yes.
You did, yeah.
Well, provisional, which meant you had to have somebody with you all the time.
Yeah.
You were driving.
Yeah, it's the same today.
Same today.
Yeah.
It never changed.
So you did have some experience driving, but just not anything as big as what you were driving.
The only driving experience I had was on nice, easy driving Civic cars.
Yeah.
Certainly not tanks and lorries and things like that.
No, very different.
Much different. Great deal of difference.
Yeah. And I remember reading in your book, I don't know if it was in your book or from a previous conversation, you saying how you had to actually drive one of the vehicles in reverse, didn't you?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Well, then from driving a 1,500 weight water truck, he then said, see that scout car over there? Well, that's what we call, it's a Daimler scout car, and we call it a dingo, and it's used for scouting. And
Right.
you scout forward and use it as an observation post for your our 75mm guns. So he said, it's got a Wilson gearbox in it, which is automatic. Well, I'd never driven an automatic car. It just automatically changed up and down as you revved the accelerator. So I got in that one. He said, do the same again, only in that Daimler Dingo. So I drove around Windsor in this open top Daimler Dingo with it's got a concrete seat on an angle. So
Oh, right.
then you drive it forward at 40 mile plus, and it's got 6 gears. But once you to reach the perfection, you should do 30 to 40 miles in reverse, which takes a bit of doing.
Well,
So,
yeah.
so after I'd driven it for a little while normally, he said, no, put it in reverse and try and reverse back the road once you just come up. And get up as fast as you can, fast as you feel comfortable. I think I got up to about 25, 30 miles an hour.
Wow. Which in reverse is...
Which in reverse was very good.
Yeah.
It had the 6 gears forward and the 6 gears in reverse.
Right.
Now the reason for that was if you should come up against an enemy on a corner, you could reverse back out of trouble very quickly. And you can put on each side of your armored car or tank, you had smoke mortars. You'd fire a smoke mortar like that, 1 or 2, that would cover you up out of view of the enemy.
Yeah.
Like a navy would lay down a smoke screen to get a destroyer out of trouble.
Yeah.
So we tried that a few times, which he was very pleased with. So he said, okay, I'm satisfied with what you've done. You've delivered everything I asked very well. Drive back to the barracks. So back to the barracks I drove, and then he gave me another pink card that I was capable and able to drive. What they call armoured vehicles, tanks or armoured cars. So that was that done.
Great. Okay.
Having got that done, I then went on to the wireless wing for radio training. There, I was taken into a class to learn Morse code, and to pass out, you had to do 10 words a minute. That was third-class operator. After you'd done a third class, they would put you on to a second class. And that stepped you up a bit. And you had to do 15 words per minute, forward and back. So then they taught me how to operate a wireless set and how to maintain it. They taught me the wireless procedure that you use over the telephone. It has to be the same procedure for everybody. Such as we went out as 4 or 5 cars in a patrol. 4 or 5 other people joined me, and the call sign for the day was SNT, Sugar Dan Tear.
Okay.
And we were 6 troops, so I was Sugar Dan Tear 6. And they called me up, hello Sugar Dan Tear 6, location. Sugar Dan Tear 6, outside Westminster Hall, or outside somewhere. And so, okay, drive on to Tower Bridge. And so that was all done over the radio, telling you all the things. And you had to answer back correctly. And Roger, use the word Roger, message received and understood. And if it was an order, you use the word will comply.
Okay.
So they rang up and they said, do this, that's an order. So you replied, Sugar Nanterre 6, Wilco, out. In other words, you would comply with the order you were given.
Yeah.
If it was a simple information message, you would merely answer Roger, out.
Yeah. Just to acknowledge you'd
Just to
received
acknowledge I'd received the message.
Yeah.
So that went on for several weeks, wireless training, and going back to the A Squadron every now and again to do adventure work, which everybody had to do, and that was something new. So I had to go back and do that, and then back into B Squadron again. So that went on, and then after that, 2 or 3 weeks, they said I was good enough to take an exam test. So I took the 3rd class operator's test. Then they sent me to an advanced driving course in approach to the enemy. So I did that. That was driving to certain places and what they call tactical driving. Instead of driving down the road, you keep to the left-hand side. You wouldn't, when you come to a right-hand corner like that, you would change the lanes and go down the right-hand corner because you were less visible than anybody looking up the road. So they trained you into tactical driving.
Yeah.
And so I got through that all right. So after 3 months training, they said, we'll give you another test on all the subjects and see how you get on. So I was tested on all subjects and I passed out on all of them. So they gave me a 3rd class operator's grading. And so that was that. So after that, we just did, every day we did wireless training and tactical driving all day. And they put us, we were a squad of 30, and they gave us half truck transformed into the back of it was an imitation turret with the radios in, guns in and everything.
Yeah.
And it was driven by an ATS driver. I had a very nice girl, and she came from a family in Sherborne, and Sherborne is just down the road from Bovington, where I was training. So we used to go out with her, and she'd say to me, Max, we're going to go home. I said, go home? Yes. She said, my mother has got a nice big fat donut ready for us and a hot cup of chocolate.
Oh, lovely.
She was super. She knew all the routes, so I didn't have to do an awful lot of map reading.
No.
And she said, oh, that's okay. You've got to go so and so. I can take you there. So it was great fun.
Yeah.
Great fun.
Yeah, you enjoyed yourself.
And all the time, we were in communication with the other 9 vehicles, giving us plenty of practice in radio therapy.
Yeah.
So that was that. So now my son has been in the army nearly 9 months, I suppose.
Right.
And I was fully trained as far as they could go.